Welcome to the Articulate Ox podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I was just told from the people in the production truck that our mics are picking up a bunch of bird noises from over here in the Somadrome. So if you're hearing a lot of bird noises, that's just because we're living in nature. That's just the way it is. So I hope you appreciate that. I know I love it. My guest today, Alex Merkin. I've known Alex for so long. He was one of the first, I would say, really artistic friends that I had, like somebody who I really bonded with over creative stuff. I met him very early when I went to Boston University, where he was there as well, studying film. He is from Manhattan. I am from the Boston area. We couldn't have had different views of what film was. He was always more of a big budget Spielberg, huge movie type thing. I was more of a Clerks and Kids and Reservoir Dogs, smaller movie type thing. But there is so much that we agree upon. I think there's a lot that I've learned from Alex. You have to ask him if he's learned anything from me. But there's a lot that I've learned from him. He's a really kind, thoughtful, intelligent, talented person. And I really can't say enough good about him. Definitely check out his movies. We talk about this one particular film he did, Altitude, which was a movie in an airplane with Dolph Lundgren and Denise Richards and Chuck Liddell and Jonathan Lipnicki and Kelsey Grammar. I enjoyed the crap out of this movie. I'm definitely going to watch it again. It was a wild ride. But, Alex is an awesome person. We reminisce a bit here about our old BU days. We talk about what we've been working on, what I'm working on now, share some funny old stories, which, it seems like whenever I was around Alex, something humorous was happening. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Definitely check out Alex's films, give him a Google, and, enjoy the episode. Peace. Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox podcast. I am super excited to have my guest on today. I am Soma79. He is film director Alex Merkin. What's going on, Alex?
How's it going, man? Good Fantastic. To see you again. It's been a long time.
Been forever. So Alex and I went to film school at Boston University together too many moons ago.
Ooh, yeah. Don't tell everybody how many moons.
Yeah, it is scary to think about. I mean, I think we were one of the last classes there to finish editing, to actually edit on film, right? Because you were there a year longer than me. You might have started digital the last year.
I did the very last year. We jumped on the Avids. But then it was just always funny to look back and see everybody like we were there with the reel to reels and everybody behind us is like, yeah.
I remember being in that little room downstairs in the comm building, them showing one of the professors showing us like this little documentary from the 40s or 50s, and they had the exact same real stuff. I'm like, fuck, you buy it off that guy? Like, it's just
right. Yeah, no, that was crazy. That was it was good exercise in learning not to, how to be very, very precise with what you want to do, and thinking out your shots a little bit more because you had a very limited amount of film you could use. And once you start cutting, it's not that easy to just throw things around.
You can't do reshoots. There's no time.
Right. Yeah. Remember the exercises where we had to actually edit in the camera?
Oh yeah. I made that. My film was about one of my roommates thinking he was The Rock and getting into a fight with another one of my roommates. I still have that film. It's funny, for the film I told you I'm working on, there's a part where I incorporate old footage of myself. So I was going back through all that and cutting little clips of me dancing with Ilsa in my living room with the flex fill going in the background.
Yes. Did you see the little thing a while ago? I forgot when. I think I posted
the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I've been looking for that again because there is some footage of me in there I want to cut out, but I haven't been able to find it. So I think
it's on Facebook.
I'll have to find it. I think Evan might have been the one that posted it, or maybe it was you. I'll have to go.
I don't remember.
Yeah. But those were the days. You know what I was thinking about? Do you remember? We were talking about Chris Williams, who was one of our professors who helped us out a lot back when we were there. Do you remember the presentation we did in that class that did not go over that well at all?
There's probably more than one.
Well, it involved the Matrix.
Please,
was,
please
you,
remind me about this because what does it have to do with Jeff Allen? And
well, it was sort of, but like that was the joke we were making because like Jeff was a guy we went to school, was a friend of ours, and he did special effects in the original Matrix, and
all
like
right, it was
for
like the
some,
coolest thing because we were all in film school still at the time, but he had
yeah.
already worked on the Matrix. Like he was involved with like a groundbreaking technology that was doing all the like the bullet time stuff in the first movie.
Yeah. And because we're us, we turned it into, ooh, I worked on the Matrix. And like
We we were such
that was about
assholes.
2 years of our lives.
We
Yeah.
were we were enormous assholes, and
Yeah. But we're still laughing about it. But
yeah, I mean,
shout out Jeff Allen.
nothing in that regard has changed,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I definitely remember running around saying, "Ooh, I worked on the Matrix all the time." With, but remind me of the actual.
So these are I remember that we were supposed to. So it was our last film. It was the last film of that course. It was the Aftershock, which
Aftershock.
I had our friend Evan, who is now the greatest Tom Cruise impersonator on the planet. Actually, back then he was too. So we were supposed to bring in a clip of something to give an example of what we were supposed to do. And at this point, I remember being completely mentally checked out because I was so ADHD. I was so happy to be on a team with you because I knew we were gonna have the best movie, but I was still trying to figure out where to contribute because I was just like, so I was producing, but I was just kind of checked out of all of my education the entire time. And so he brought in the bullet time shot from the Matrix. And it was basically all just a joke because we've been doing I work in the Matrix. And I don't remember not even realizing at the time, but I remember you told me after that Chris was not happy about that. I think, I think you and him had talked about it, but yeah.
Oh my
And
god!
then I think we ended up showed our film last at that festival. So
They closed the festival with it. Yeah, that was fun. And yeah, we got the best reception. That was really awesome. But I did stuff like that. I was such a jackass. I did stuff like actually the film we were just talking about where we edited everything, and I remember like he made such an example out of that because he was like every shot he loved, and then at the very end I just had to do something really fucking stupid because I couldn't take myself seriously. So like I'd taken the whole film. I was worried I was taking it too seriously. It made me feel uncomfortable.
I remember the film too.
Yeah.
Wasn't there an airplane going by at some point? You got a
well,
perfect
that was the big blue. That was another
yes.
one.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Okay. But the first one I did with like, do you remember Bob McGovern?
Oh, of course, one of the funniest people. Yeah.
Totally. And so he was like playing like this like homeless guy in the park. And
yeah, I remember this exactly now. Yep. You shot in the fence.
At the very end, I just what?
I think you shot in the
yes,
fence.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the very end, so it was all these like really dramatic shots and stuff, and at the very end, he just like walks away and like I think he like picks his ass or something or does something really goofy, and then he's like, you had to ruin it. He's like, you had to ruin the movie. He was just like everything. He's like, I loved all of it. And like he was just like, and then you get to this, he's like, couldn't just let it go.
Ruined it for some, made it better for others.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I cared about.
Did you ever see the documentary? It's kind of random, but there's a point. Overnight about the guy who made Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of that documentary, he's in that same room at Calm. I don't remember this being there, but I think I recognized like the small red room where we had the screening room, and I remember recognizing a couple of the students in there as people we had class with. And he was up there just doing I forget the guy's name, but he directed the Boondock Saints, and there's a reason I think he hasn't made a zillion other movies. He was difficult to work with, is what that documentary more than suggests. And he was in there just holding court, acting like a lunatic. And I was wondering if you might have been there. Because I remember seeing Sofia Coppola came. I remember seeing what's his name? Kasdan, not Lawrence, but his son. Jake Kasdan was there. But I wish I was at that one. You weren't at that, were you?
I think I did. I think I was at that one, yeah.
Oh, the one with the Boondock Saints guy?
No. I meant the Jake Kasdan one. No, I was screaming that one, yeah. I remember seeing what's the other guy? The one
Tim
that
Roth
was running around. What? Who?
Were you there for Tim Roth?
I think I remember Tim Roth. I remember Kevin Spacey. I remember.
I didn't see Kevin Spacey. The Tim Roth one I remember in particular because there was some really weird stuff about it. He was there promoting, I think it was called maybe The War. I forget the name. Maybe it was The War Room or something. But it was a movie about a family.
I actually did see. Yes, and I was
a family where the daughter was raped. I think by the father, if I remember correctly. And during the scene that the daughter was raped, she was wearing this shirt with a star in the middle of it. And when Tim Roth came out at the end, he was wearing the exact same shirt, but he had one sleeve pulled up the entire time. And every time someone asked him a question, he was really snippy about it. He was like, the first thing he said was, I don't want to answer any question about Quentin Tarantino. He was a nice guy, all right? And then some kid, and these are all film students, so
Right. That's the
no
first.
offense
That's all.
to us,
That's
we're all
all anybody wants to
pretentious.
know.
Right.
Right.
But some kid was like, hey, I have a controversial script I'm writing on communism. He's
Wait,
like, who
you
says
need
it's
to-
controversial?
You need to, but you actually need to qualify that. It's not just film students and Quentin Tarantino. It's film students in like, what was it, 1990, like in between
97,
98 to,
98,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like all these film students are in film school because of Quentin Tarantino, and they all
Right.
want to talk. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like, yeah.
And at that
Yeah.
point, he'd only put out Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. So he was especially a level of intrigue,
Right.
even being someone sort of new, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he must have been so sick. He probably still is sick of answering that question.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I remember James Toback came and was terrorizing students at the school. Do you remember
I
that?
didn't hear that part. No, I mean, I know I've heard his reputation, but
Yeah, I remember all the stories of him pulling out his director's card and trying to get girls from the school back to his.
that's so sad. Yeah. So I mean, I wonder, was that around the time he was shooting Harvard Man? I do remember seeing that with Adrian, who obviously worked on Across the Hall, Adrian Grenier from Entourage. That's a gem too. If you haven't seen, if you want to see Adrian Grenier from Entourage do an acid freak out for like a half hour running around Cambridge, there's a lot of good stuff in that movie.
I think it was after he had shot Harvard Man, right? Wasn't it?
It might have been, yeah.
I don't remember. I think
That was originally supposed to be Leonardo DiCaprio that was in that movie, but then it got replaced. Black and I was thinking about Black and White the other day. That's another forgotten movie, like Mike Tyson, Wu-Tang Clan, Ben Stiller. Was it Grant Hill? Maybe I think
so. Yeah, I think it was Grant Hill. Yeah,
that was a great
crazy movie.
Yeah, the Library.
Yeah,
man, I remember that like it was yesterday, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
those are the days that Robert Downey Jr. could only get movies like that.
I know.
And
I know.
Everybody knew he was so talented, but also like he had not revived his career.
He had not been Iron Man yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So so that was film school. I mean, after that, Five Lion Productions. I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know if greenlion@fivelion.com is still an email address.
Probably is. I don't even know how to access any of that stuff anymore either.
That was almost confusing back in the day, even how to access it. So getting it now is probably.
Oh my God. Yeah. This is like before, like, normal terminal, like, internet was, remember when we were actually in school and like checking your email was like, you had to go to like, you had to go backslash, like, go to some portal at the crazy.
It was insane.
Absolutely
we had no
insane.
Cable. It was the worst.
Oh, God.
BU was so much nicer.
I did in my first semester. I did because I was at the Hojos.
Oh, see, we sort of had it because one of the kid I went to high school with who happened to live on my floor. There was cable in the downstairs lounge. He tapped into it and put a splitter on the wire and ran into his phone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Where were you? Where were you living?
I was in West Campus the first 2 years. Then I had an apartment in Kenmore after that has since burned down. Wow. It was the place we shot the Aftershock. That burned down.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
It was a major fire there.
Didn't Pete live there?
No, I lived there.
Oh, you lived there?
No, you're thinking the beginning of the party.
Oh, that's right. Now I remember. Now I remember the place. Yeah. The party stuff. Right. That's right. Now I remember your place. Oh yeah.
It was on a hill. It was on a slope, and
I totally remember it now. And
there wasn't a full wall.
The surfboard stuff at the end as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
I remember.
Good times, man. Good times. Maybe we'll have to put that at the end of this episode so people can see the aftershock.
Oh yeah. We should do it.
Yeah,
definitely.
So Five Lion, that was a film production company that you started out of the Village in was it East Village? Is that where you were?
West
Village. Okay, yeah. I was the other day when I was going through looking for some tapes for I was trying to find stuff myself. I found the footage of the when we were auditioning actresses for Across the Hall.
Oh, cool. Crazy.
Which was, I remember on the way there, we got a cab ride from the drunkest cab driver in New York. And I want to watch the whole footage because I'm betting somewhere, we auditioned a lot of actors. I'm betting someone on there is somebody famous that has gone on to do something.
Oh, there is. Well, there's a guy like Adrian Martinez has gone on to do a ton of stuff. He auditioned for The Porter.
We were only doing actresses that day. So
maybe that day. Yeah. No, we had a couple. I think Malin Ackerman auditioned at some point.
I remember there were names like the kid who was in, I think, the third Terminator movie, whose name's escaping me, might have been bounced. I even remember being James Franco's name being, and this is way before even I think Spider-Man. So like,
right.
it was just like, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
crazy. It was crazy, but yeah, no, it's funny to look back at all that stuff. Those were it's a wild, that was a wild time when that movie, when we got the opportunity to make that short,
Yeah.
just because shorts like that weren't produced on that level at the time. Like that,
Yeah.
we got a really great opportunity with Samsung and First Look Studios. So
Yeah. Let's set the stage a little bit for that, for some
sure.
context. So Across the Hall was a short film that you directed. I had a little bit of involvement in it. I think most of the stuff I worked on didn't. I think I was trying to do promotional stuff that didn't
Well, you
even.
had more involvement than that. I mean, I woke up in the middle of the night, scribbled the story down on a pad of paper, and then I talked to you about it, and we sent it to
Yeah.
your brother to
Yep.
write it up.
Yep. I
Um,
forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, so that was like literally after I first wrote it down, I talked to you about it, and yeah,
Good Lord,
we
my
got it.
memory is terrible about. You know what I remember the most about the shoot of that? I wasn't at the shoot of that film because I was sicker than I've almost ever been in my life. And I
Oh,
remember
really?
it being, I think, one of the first text messages I ever sent saying I couldn't go because I was literally so sick I couldn't talk.
What was going on?
I just had an enormous head and chest cold, but like I was really, really sick. And because I'd taken time off to go down there and be there for the shoot, but I was literally like, there's no way in hell I can even leave my bedroom. I remember being like, sorry, it's not in the
That was a
cards.
great shoot. You would have loved that.
I
You
know, it
would
would
have
have been
loved
great.
that shoot. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that was amazing.
Yeah. I think my
That's
parents still have a
horrible.
poster of that hanging in their house of
Oh, really?
Views
That's
Across
awesome.
the Hall. Yeah, with
That's
Adrian,
awesome.
like, behind the
Yeah, yeah,
wall.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Across the Hall was a short film that was made, that you directed. And it was something. So explain the partnership with Samsung, because I was just doing a little bit of homework and rereading this, and I was like, I don't know if I even knew all the details of that back then.
Well, this is what was around. Well, when we first started putting the script together, it was probably around 2003 or 2004, somewhere around there. And there was really no YouTube. I mean, it was
That's
just like,
right.
I think YouTube kind of popped up around 2005 or somewhere in that area, but at least on our radar. So there wasn't like fast video streaming or like online platforms for short films. There weren't smartphones where people were watching everything on their phones at the time. Um, and
Maybe, like I said, I was around the time I was sending my first text messages, so it's
right,
like there certainly
right,
wasn't,
right. No, totally. It was like, yeah, I remember these. Yeah, we are doing the little like that little not. What was that? That where you're pushing the numbers.
push the button 3 times to get
Yeah,
like,
yeah, to get the
yeah,
yeah, it was great.
yeah.
Um, but but uh, but the film itself, as a short film, was designed to feel like a bigger film, like a bigger sort of Hollywood film in a way, and at the same time, it had a lot of very natural branding opportunities for cell phones, which we immediately identified. There weren't things that it wasn't something that was crammed into the story. It like you needed cell phones to tell the story, and that's just a natural aspect of the way the story is sort of the
Right.
stage is set. So
And just quickly, the story is about somebody who thinks that their girlfriend or significant other is cheating on them, and
right,
the people involved are in separate rooms, so a lot of the communication is done via cell phone. That's sort of
right.
how.
Well, yeah, basically a guy suspects his fiance of cheating on him, follows her to a hotel and checks into the room across the hall from her. He's on his cell phone. He's calling his best friend on his cell phone, and it's sort of a lifeline. Like, if the cell phone hangs up, he's probably going to go across the hall and shoot her, kill her, and to make matters worse, he's stolen his best friend's gun, uh, to before he checked himself in. He's been drinking all night. So it was contained, but it was very suspenseful, and moved, had a sort of a Hollywood pacing to it. And so we immediately, I spoke to you about it. We put the script together. You remember Gary Gimmelfarb
Yep.
and Evan Ferrante. I worked with them, and I believe we put a whole pitch package together. And Evan, immediately got to work doing his networking thing that he does, which is what he was so valuable.
Yep. And Evan too, if you've ever seen the show Swan's Crossing, which I'd never seen until 6 months ago when my girlfriend was like, got someone from Swan's Crossing. It is pretty amazing, and it does kind of hold up. I was enjoying the fuck out of it. So Evan was on that.
That's awesome.
Shout out to him.
Yep. Who did he played?
Owen.
Owen.
He was the youngest kid. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And he's basically, if you look up not Tom Cruise, he's the amazing Tom Cruise impersonator available.
And I'm credited with starting him on his yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
You gotta watch his interviews or read his interviews. Yeah. I was in freshman year. We were walking around. We both were in the Hojos together, and this was like in the first week. And I'm like, dude, has anybody ever told you have like Tom Cruise's vocal cords? And he goes, no. I go, yeah, dude, you sound like you sound like you could sound so much like him. And he goes, yeah, no, I've never heard that. So I convinced him to start learning lines from Jerry Maguire, which was out at the time in theaters. And now I'm dating us.
I was about to say, I saw it in theaters, so yeah.
Yeah. And so he did that, and I like kind of coached him on getting this stuff down, and then we would go around and to like I got my dog, and if you see me doing this, it's not nefarious.
That's all right.
My dog just walked in the door. So we walked around to like we would knock on girls' doors, and he'd do it his Tom Cruise, I'd do my Jean-Claude Van Damme. And
this I do. Okay, I remember this.
This is how we would meet. This is how we break the ice. So it was great. And then we literally just it was such a good impression. It was so remarkable that like he would do like my voicemail greeting. Like, everybody had to have like back then everybody had to have a fucking like funny voicemail.
Mine was my roommate's name was Tim, and ours said press 1 for Tim and press 2 for Tim. We thought that was genius.
That was genius. That is genius. Still genius.
It's a timeless joke.
But yeah, so he would be like, hey, this is Tom Cruise speaking, and he would like say Alex can't come to the phone. He'd do that whole thing. And he would do a whole and people would be like, what the fuck, how'd you get Tom Cruise? They would go crazy for it. So it just became this thing, like a party trick. Every time we would go out anywhere, it'd be like, all right, pull up to Tom Cruise, and a big crowd of people would form. And now he's literally
he won an Entertainment Tonight contest, and he was number one. Yeah.
No, he literally gets jobs doing like ADR work or like video game work as Tom Cruise.
I think he was on a cut scene from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
He was Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, he gets flown all over the world to do this Tom Cruise because it's so good. It's just unreal. It's way better than the guy who does the deep fake and doesn't sound anything like him.
I've seen that. Yeah,
he's that guy just kind of looks a little more like him. But
Evan looks enough like him too, especially when he puts on the aviators and all that stuff
and the wig. Yeah, totally.
It's pretty amazing.
So, yeah, it was great. Even Chris Williams, I remember Chris Williams saying at the time, "Oh, you got your own little Tom Cruise." In the movie.
I remember that.
So, so it was pretty awesome. But yeah, anyway, so that's the Evan Ferrante, who was producer on Across the Hall. Bringing it back to that.
Yep.
And he's such a little natural networker that he went and he got meetings. He took that around to a lot of people. This little pitch package that we had, this little presentation package that it was really well done. We've made like posters and like it was to the point where Gary and Evan were flown out to LA at one point to meet with Warner Brothers Independent about just forgetting the short film. Let's do this as a feature. But it was designed as a short. It was ready to go as a short. We were seriously considering that, but we preferred to do it as a short because it felt like we'd be stretched thin.
Yeah, you need time and you did do the feature, but you need time to kind of make that into a 90-minute story.
Exactly. So we he got it to First Look Studios, and and First Look Studios was able to use the project to get a branding deal with Samsung Mobile, where they would finance the film, give us phones to use, and the idea being that they would then take the film and release the first half of it on would come preloaded on their new video phones that were just coming out, and then you would go to a website to download the second half of it, that they would kind of direct you to, and you could watch it, and which was a really cool thing. And they so they paid for us to build sets and shoot on 35 millimeter. It was
Looks
early
beautiful.
days. It was the early days of digital, so like it wasn't digital didn't look the way it does today, where you could just make it look like film. It's like the Panasonic like 720, like it just wasn't. I mean, the only, if you wanted to use digital and make it look good, you had to spend Star Wars money. It wasn't like it wasn't
even those movies. I wouldn't say look well,
yeah,
especially the ones back then. Yeah,
right, exactly. But like that was so they gave us, so we built sets. We built a hotel set. We shot on 35 millimeter, and then after it was done, they did these like premieres for us, so it was crazy. It was like a really crazy experience. But
and was Adrian on Entourage at the time? I think he was already on.
He was.
Yeah. And that couldn't have hurt at all.
No, it was.
Camera loves that guy. The camera loves that guy.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
Yeah, he was excellent in it.
Yeah, it was at the height. It was actually at the peak of his popularity, Entourage. And Evan showed the script to him. He got it. He attached himself to it, and we were off and running. So it was an exciting time.
Yeah, remember there's even a Page Six article about it at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I stumbled over that. I don't throw anything out, as you can tell by behind me somewhere. There is a Flash toy that I played with in the tub when I was like 4 years old. Still got it.
Nice, dude.
Might go up on eBay if I get desperate.
I might bid on it. Let me know.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was a great experience. That was our sort of launching pad into sort of the industry bigger. We were doing, short films, music video stuff, commercial kind of stuff. Did you come to, you came to some of our music video shoots, didn't you, or no?
I remember I did a treatment for one from an act named Pretty Tony. I was thinking about this earlier today. I actually I have two 12 inches of that, so I can cut it up on the ones and twos later. I remember I wrote a treatment for that, didn't get made. I think I wrote some treatments for some Mike Wan videos that might not have got made. That's what I think the most of the creative stuff I end up doing for you guys is either on like the press kits or writing treatments for like videos and stuff.
Cool.
But I don't remember being on, because when you were in New York, I would drive down sometimes, but I was living in Boston and fairly broke and just still trying to find my way, so I wasn't around as much as
Mm-hmm. Well, we always loved having you around.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
I do remember being next door to the Source magazine.
That's right. Benzino was always running in and out of there.
Yeah, still on the news today. His daughter is kicking serious ass. I mean, she's really tearing up the charts. I love her music. So when I found she was Benzino's daughter, my brain was like,
I don't know if do you remember any of those other guys, like KB the bald-headed bastard?
I remember Blinky Blink.
You didn't come to that music video shoot? I
don't think so. That's Mace's brother, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I was at that shoot. I do remember. I probably don't want to talk about that story. I'm thinking about it.
Whoa. Say it and then cut it out. Say it and cut it.
It involved jail.
Oh.
And maybe a missing car.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, we'll leave it at that. That is a story that every time I think about that, I'm not gonna tell a story, but I remember it started with an attempt to go to a seafood restaurant. I remember being with you guys a few hours before, and I'm definitely allergic to shellfish. No matter what, I wouldn't have been there. But I don't know. It's a story for another day, but it makes me laugh.
If this stays in, we had a music video meeting, a meeting to do a music video with an artist and somebody who was going to bankroll the artist's music video. And after successfully having this meeting, I went to go walk my dogs, and I was going to meet them at a seafood restaurant. after I finished walking my dog, they were still on the block. They said, "Jump in the car. Let's head over to the seafood restaurant." We got pulled over by undercover cops and who were convinced that a little white kid getting in the back seat of like a white Cadillac was
Vicious.
suspicious.
And this is the time where the hip hop cops were definitely in full effect in New York City. There were numerous hip hop related, violence related incidents around, that span of several years, without naming names. But
so let's just say I was accused of being a gangbanger for a while.
no, mind you, up at that point, I don't think I ever saw you have a drink of alcohol. I don't think you probably ever smoked a cigarette. You were probably one of the most straight-laced people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I still have never smoked cigarettes.
You're not missing much.
No. I hear I got to try it one of these days. I've got too much money and I'm not dead yet. So
yeah, you got to find a way to make
try
it happen. Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, good times.
Man.
Yeah.
Those were crazy. Those are crazy days.
It was tough too, because I remember you and Evan went up to Buffalo once to try to shoot a documentary that never got off the ground.
Do you remember something happened with the subjects and Evan?
Yes.
And it was like it got really fucking. It was
weird.
It was weird. Yeah.
It wasn't weird on our end, but like one of the subjects
they got weird. One of the subjects got weird.
They got very weird. Yeah.
And
I do remember on the way there was the day that 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying came out, because I remember listening to that the whole way there.
I also remember we listened to a lot of Eminem back in the day.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. I saw 8 Mile down when we were down in New York, and I remember we went to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. As soon as the lights went up, I fell asleep and I woke up the movie. I didn't see one frame of that movie.
I don't remember anything from that movie at all. So
yeah,
I don't think I fell asleep through it, and I probably remember as much about it as you do.
I saw it again. I was like, most steps in this movie? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no. So
yeah. Good times, man. So let's talk a little about Across the Hall did get made into a feature film. We don't need to go too much into this, but Brittany Murphy was a star of the film, was one of her last films. Alex did an excellent interview for the HBO documentary, What Happened to Brittany Murphy. We don't need to, it's obviously, you said the stuff there. We don't need to, revisit that unless you want to for whatever reason, but definitely check that out unless you tell me that it's shitty and they shouldn't, but I enjoyed it. I thought you did.
Oh no, I have tremendous respect for the director of that project, who I'm actually working with now.
Oh, cool.
And her name's Cynthia Hill. She's got an HBO documentary coming out, I think June 6th, called Burden of Proof. It's a true crime documentary.
Oh, I'll be watching that. I watch all that stuff.
It's excellent. She's so good. She's so talented, and so I'm really excited to be working with her now. And she's so definitely check that out.
So Across the Hall
was a hard
the feature film version came out in 2009. I don't know if any of the actors remained. I feel like at least one may have, but that's neither here nor there. I remember hearing stories wasn't there a fire or something on set? That wasn't the easiest shit in the world, was it?
Let's talk about
Across the Hall.
Yeah, well,
that was your feature film directorial debut, correct?
Yes, right, exactly. So we made the short film. That landed me a very big agent.
You won a bunch of awards.
We won a lot of awards for it. So I spent a lot of time working on a script that I sort of wanted to do something new. At the same time, we were sort of developing the feature version of Across the Hall, but I didn't want to just sort of have the one trick. You know what I mean? I wanted to do a new project. I spent about 2 years developing and writing a project. We had some really great meetings with studios, and we were working on spec on this script and finished it right as the writer's strike back then was about to start.
Here we are in the middle of another one.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So my agent informed me we just weren't going to be able to do anything with that for a while. And because it had been now some time that I've been developing that, I've been getting a lot of offers to do the short film as a feature. And I just sort of felt like if I waited any longer, that window might close. So we took one of those offers, ended up making we made that feature at Universal Studios in 2008.
You were near the Back to the Future lot, I remember, correct? Or was it?
Yeah. We were right next, we were very close. It was an old stage that they've since torn down, but it was called the Phantom stage, because it had the original Phantom of the Opera set.
Wow.
Still in, like, they actually had the opera facade along the outside of the sound stage. So it's really cool. Like, we would eat lunch in the opera pews. It was like,
wow.
it was crazy. So we shot we prepped and shot everything at Universal. Jurassic Park was right outside of the studio. So sometimes we'd be in like, we'd have scenes that'd be very quiet. You could just hear like little Jurassic Park, music outside on the ride. But yeah, and we did shoot on the New York City backlot. We were one of the last films to shoot there before it burned down. So that's what you were talking about. But yeah, that was also pretty cool, because like in between takes or whatever, we'd be hanging out at the Back to the Future lot and just going through the sides, and those kind of things are crazy. Or like when we were prepping the movie, we'd go down, like we'd just take a little golf cart down to like the Psycho Motel and Bates Motel, and just like sit and go over work and just sit on the steps. And it was great. That stuff was so fun.
What do you think were some of your first pinch me moments? Because I remember we definitely, when we were early on, we talked about all these people we'd love to work with and directors and people we loved. And you grew up around New York. I'm sure more so you than me. You would see people on the streets, famous people on the streets walking around. But what was one of your first moments when you really were like, holy shit, how did I end up here?
I definitely had a couple of them. I mean, I think even just, I would say first one was after the short, I think, being contacted by Disney Studios and asked to come out and meet with them.
Wow.
So that was a pretty cool experience. So went out and had a great meeting there, and I think just as soon as it started to set in that like I'm gonna make my first feature film on the same studio lot and in the same like sound stage as Alfred Hitchcock had worked, and Steven Spielberg, and just all these classic films that like had been made. Like literally scenes from Psycho, the basement from Psycho was built in the same sound stage that we filmed in. So just having that kind of history around all the time. I remember one time in a movie in Florida. You remember Elliot Ottenberg, I'm sure.
Oh my God, I hadn't thought of him in years. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wrote some projects that we worked on together, and I remember on a night that he and I, like, so it was the day before Peter Fonda and Terrence Howard were gonna arrive on the next day to start prepping and filming.
Yeah.
These
Not
scenes
exactly a
together.
couple of lightweights.
Right, exactly. And we were literally sitting in the seats across from each other where they were going to be sitting, and going through the script and like reworking dialogue for them and doing all that stuff, and just going like, oh, like there was definitely, I remember a moment going, it's crazy that those two guys are like, we're literally sitting here doing, their stuff, working out their scenes right now. And that was, I remember that being like,
like, how am I going to sleep tonight moment?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, but I would say that, like, I gotta tell you, I think the biggest one for me, even really before all of that, was actually the short film Across the Hall. The first time I went down to, like, we had done music videos and had like little sets and things, and we'd done whatever, but like the very first time I went down to a stage and saw a set going up for something that I like dreamed of, and that wasn't for somebody else's like passion project, but it was for my passion project. Like, we were building sets.
Yeah.
So I got down, and you just start to see the flats going up, and you're on the stage, and like suddenly it's like a reality. Like,
Yeah, this is real. Other people I don't
really
know have been working on this. Like
on this thing.
yeah.
Exactly. I'm walking around the dimensions of a set that I've only ever dreamed of, and and only ever like been. That was a pretty big pinch me moment, I think.
So
yeah.
so when it comes to Across the
But I still
Hall,
have them, by the way. I still have them because
still have what, the flats?
pinch me. No,
Oh, the pinch me
no.
moments.
Actually,
I
I
was
actually do still have flat. It's from the feature version of it. We had a big elevator mural, and I have the door, the room 507 door that they're looking through. But no, but yeah, I mean, I still
have
pinch
those
myself
moments,
that
yeah.
I get to do this. Like, I'm sitting in my office with, movie stars going through movies that and making changes on things that people are going to watch. And it's, I try not to ever get too jaded by it, because it's easy to sort of go
Yeah.
down this sort of rabbit hole of negativity and in some of these, there's a lot of wake up calls you get when you start pursuing your dreams, and things that there are realities to it,
Right.
that are difficult to you don't see, you never see that stuff when you're dreaming of this,
Right. Especially with projects that cost a lot of money. A lot of people have input on a project that costs a lot of money.
Exactly. And so the compromises you have to make, the just the heart, the difficult decisions, the backstabbings that happen, the it's a pressure cooker, and not everybody who gets into the industry, A, is capable of withstanding it, and B, got into it with the best of intentions, and that pressure cooker brings out the worst in some people.
It's a good point. Yeah. It's an industry that definitely appeals to a fair share of egomaniacs and greedy
narcissists.
people. Yeah, it's tough.
Mhm.
And artists are difficult to deal with. As somebody who does the business side and the art side, I find it hard to deal with myself sometimes. It's hard. It's like you do stuff against your own best interests all the time, and it's hard.
100%. Try to remember always why I do this, and how much I've always wanted to do this, and keep that sort of like passion for it, because once it becomes this sort of like, this job, or this sort of obligation,
Right. It's almost like the thing that you love becomes a thing that starts eating your soul to some degree.
Right. So for me, it's not worth doing if I'm not loving what I'm doing. And and so it even when things are really hard, or even if I'm not in love with the project I'm working on, I still love the work I still love being able to do the work I'm doing. Right. So I could be doing a project where I'm like, I feel like there's limitations to the script, or limitations to the budget, or limitations to the team, the sort of circumstances in place, where I'm not, people have this idea that, like, as a filmmaker, you can just, anything that's in your head, you just make it. And so if something's on screen the way it is, it's because you chose for it to be that way, and it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So it can be very frustrating to go through that process and go, I'm not going to be able to do these things that I know the film needs, or I'm going to be forced to do things that I know are going to hurt or harm the film, or so. And then you start to lose maybe excitement for the project itself, but not necessarily for the work you're doing. And in other words, giving 100% to it, elevating that work, and doing, and making it something that it could have, that it, at least in my mind, it wasn't, it didn't really have a chance of being, if we didn't like overcome these hurdles.
The concept of joy comes up a lot in this podcast. That's what we really talk about a lot about our art, is that joy is like a step beyond happiness. It's where you're almost lost in the moment of being like, I'm here doing exactly what I want to do, I'm enjoying the shit out of it, and it's almost a magical feeling. And it's like, there's definitely those times where I felt that feeling in the middle of a project that wasn't even going that well, or I wasn't pumped with, but it's like those moments are the ones that kind of keep you going.
100%. Yeah, it's just, I mean, if I'm not going to do that, I might as well just take a desk job somewhere, and like preserve my preserve my sanity a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, and like, why am I torturing, like I told you, I was up all night working on this movie. Why would I put myself through that kind of hell if I'm not going to enjoy? Because, you know, that takes a lot out of you, and not only takes a lot out of you, like it takes a lot out of your life, your social life, or you know, your family life, or you're just sort of drained. And you know, but you gotta be passionate about what you're doing,
Right.
and you have to have
A
joy
lot
for
of
it.
people have no idea what it's like to watch the same 15 seconds of footage over and over again. And like then the problem of losing all objectivity sets in at some point where you're just like, I think I'm seeing an outline of Charles Grodin in the fire. Is that the most obvious thing ever? And you're just like, holy shit, how long have I been in this tiny room?
Right, right. It is hard, especially like, you know, I'm directing the movies, and a lot of times I'm also editing them, like physically editing them, not just sitting in on an edit. So to stay fresh, to stay sharp on these things, you have to learn to trust instincts and first impressions, because you can definitely start to convince yourself something's not good when it is,
Yeah.
or is good when it's not. And it becomes I can't tell you how many times, like, you can sort of intellectualize things that that are there that no one else is ever going to see, or ever going to experience, and it's really just about how do they feel when they're watching this, and like,
Yeah.
how do they respond to this, and does it make them laugh? But yeah, but you can justify it all you want, and you can say, well, no, but it makes sense because X, Y. If it doesn't, you know,
Right.
you can't, you can't
Sometimes you got
be
to let
using
go
too
of your
much of that.
favorite jokes because they change the direction of the scene, you know, to change the way you view a character, you know.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, because what happens is a lot of those things that are your favorite sort of things, or things that you become attached to, you become attached to them for the wrong reasons, or they might be initial thoughts that sort of stood out, outside of everything else. But when you make the project itself, uh, it it sort of takes on a life and shape of its own, and it becomes its own sort of thing, and that thing doesn't fit with what it's
Right.
become anymore. Because it's just too like, you didn't adapt that part because it was so set in your mind. Like,
Right.
I want this to be so this and that. I have this great idea for XYZ, right? But like, everything else has sort of become something completely different, and you didn't adapt this part to make it work with
Right.
it.
And you
So
can't forcing it in is only for you. It's not for the
right,
viewer, you know.
exactly, exactly. So I mean, that's one of the, you know, just learning to just get rid of it. If I mean, I start to, you get to the point where you're just like, if I can live without this, I should take it out, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Because really, in a
because
film, almost everything should be pushing the story along to some degree.
exactly,
And it's
exactly,
really easy to put in like little personal favorite jokes, which is why it's
right,
like you see like these, you see like an Anchorman where they do like 9 hours of improv. It's like if the improv isn't in service of the character or the story,
right.
then it just belongs on during the credits where we get a
No,
good
it's funny
laugh
that you
out of
say
it.
that too, because like, I remember I'll see like outtakes or like scenes, like, you know, they'll always like post something, and I'm like, why wasn't that in the movie? That was
Right. Or
funnier
you
than
see a
anything in the
trailer
movie,
and there's
right?
a part in a trailer
Right.
that's not in the
Yeah,
movie,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you're like, you're right, because it didn't go with the movie. It was hilarious on its
Yeah.
own, in this little, like, yeah, this little window bubble. This is perfect, but as part of the movie, it does. It's
Do
just
you
a
ever?
side.
So the other day I put on, I forget what the name of the movie is, but it was the Norm Macdonald, Dave Chappelle, and someone else movie from like the 80s. It had like a 190s. It was like a one name, one word title. I forget what it's called. But it was obviously shot on film. And it's just
Uh-huh.
maybe there's a part of me that's just every time I see these movies from like the 90s that are really not that good, and I'm like, they spent the money to shoot that on film.
And
And like, you know, these days,
they
you
didn't have
know,
choices in the '90s, so that's what you were
right,
filming.
right. But I still feel this
Yeah.
little bit of grimace in me. It's like this was shot in this everything's shot in digital now. Do you feel that? Do you still have a nostalgia for film, or do you think that we're so far down the digital rabbit? I mean, obviously, digital's so much easier, you know,
Right.
especially now.
I think I don't. I mean, look, I appreciate the um I appreciate the sort of like tactile sort of and, you know, for someone like Quentin Tarantino who's going to shoot on film, or if you're shooting like large format, like 70 millimeter, and you're just doing this like breathtaking, stunning thing, um, I get it, 100% get it, and I appreciate it. Like, I used to be like a strict like film only dude, but that's because at the time digital just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it is. I don't sit and watch digital movies going, man, this looks like crap. This doesn't
Right.
look. This doesn't like so.
Especially too,
I
because
don't.
modern TVs and cinemas are made for digital too. It's more of the
Right.
opposite now. When you see a film movie on a modern TV, it's more noticeable that it doesn't
It
like,
is. It is. Yeah. There's aspects of film I still like. But but ultimately, if you're shooting with the right lenses, you're shooting with the right people, your color, you're like posting it properly. It's less about what you're shooting on and more about the people shooting it and the choices you're making as you shoot it, because you can make it look. I mean, I've seen plenty of digital movies that look better than some of the some of the
yeah,
most beautiful films. So, but that doesn't, I still love the format, and I appreciate it.
yeah.
I'm just not like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like is anybody going to be able to go out unless you're Quentin Tarantino? It's like no one's going to be able to walk in and
Right.
go, it's film or nothing anymore.
Right. Well, no, it's funny because I was like thinking, it's funny you even asked that question, because I remember watching that like Project Greenlight a
Yeah,
couple years ago, and there was a kid who was like,
hilarious. Was it Shia LaBeouf, the one that he was in
no, no,
as a
no,
kid?
no. There was even more, like, I think it's one of the most recent ones. But this kid came in and he was just so dead set on shooting film, and this is like recently. This is just a couple years ago, and he was so dead set on shooting film, and he was offered. They said, you can shoot. We'll give you film if you want. If you, they took him down to digital lab and showed him everything you could do with the digital lab, just to try to make him more comfortable, because he'd shot his short film on
Yeah, I
film.
think I saw this. This sounds familiar.
Right. And they gave him the choice of shooting on film or having 3 extra days of production.
Yes.
And he chose film. And to me, that's a very bad decision. That's a
Right.
very bad. Like, time is so much more. I will
You're
take
taking the thing that takes more time and accepting less time.
right, and time is so much more valuable than the medium you're shooting on.
Yep.
Having the time to correct things, having the time to do more things, having the time to get everything you need, because the thing that kills you, and I can tell you, I've done a lot of movies that have too many movies that had to be shot in less than 20 days. And if you have to shoot a movie in less than 20 days, what that means is you have your target is very narrow. It's further away, and once you're on set and you're working on something, and it's not looking or feeling exactly or the way you want to, and you already know what you need to do to fix it, but you calculate that you don't have the time to fix it, because if you fix it, you're not making your day, or you're already not making your day, but you're really not making your day. You're going to lose 5 or 6 shots if you
You're robbing
try to
Peter
fix
to
this
pay
one.
Paul, essentially.
Right. So having the time, like, I would give up a lot of things for more time to make a movie. Like, just having, the more days you have to shoot, the more you can sculpt, the more you can be precise with what you want to accomplish in the film. The less you have to try to make up for in post-production and try to resolve issues that you shouldn't have had. So I can tell you, so many times I've sat on set with less than 20 days to shoot, knowing exactly what I want to do to fix what's not working, and just knowing that I don't have the ability to do that, because if I do, the movie's not getting finished, or I'm being very irresponsible with other people's money, and it's not a fun battle to fight.
And if a risk like that goes wrong, that's might hurt your ability to get another film. It's like, because
Exactly.
so much of Hollywood is based on, or the film industry is based on reputation. It's if there's a talented actor that you saw years ago that you don't see anymore, and there's a good chance that maybe they were just a total dick and nobody wanted to work with them.
It's become very much, I'd say, for both good and bad. I think it's mostly good. That there's become really a no a-hole policy with sets, and people who were sort of considered Hollywood royalty or untouchable aren't getting away with, like, being abusive and
I'm not going to make you name names, but Bill Murray's one that comes to mind as somebody who's been
just
called out a lot lately.
there's
People like that.
there's plenty, and I've worked with plenty, and it's not fun to see people act abusively,
abuse their power and their position.
right. And honestly, they don't necessarily know. I mean, this is not me making excuses for people, but for a long time, the system not just protected but encouraged very bad behavior, and definitely protected, and very bad habits got formed, and also like the wrong sort of associations got formed for people. Like, oh, in order to make the movie I want, I have to yell at people and be an asshole on set, and because that's how that person did it, and look how good that movie turned out. Like, if I'm not doing that, the movie's never going to get big. So it is good that there's a lot more accountability. There's really no tolerance for that kind of shit. I would say that there are I think there's some collateral damage happening with people who are not assholes or who are not abusive. It's also because there's such a no tolerance policy, which again I think is a good thing. Because
some people go out with the bathwater,
right? Or it becomes very easy to make false accusations, or to be overly sensitive about things that you don't necessarily need, like, and
because in the Twitterverse, all the noise sounds the same.
All sounds the same, and when you have a no tolerance policy, an accusation is as good as a conviction. So
yes,
if you are, like, if someone just doesn't like, again, the way you said something to them, or like the tone of your voice one morning, and or they themselves are bipolar or have some kind of
it's all through their filter.
All right, if they want to make an accusation, it's guilty until proven innocent, right? So, and I've seen people who are not abusive get harmed by stuff like that as well. It just becomes this like, I can't tolerate any kind of accusation. I can't tolerate any kind. Which again, it is good. It is very good to not. It's very hard to find that middle ground.
Well, it's like the pendulum swings both ways. So it goes really far out, and then it's like it's to a point where it's like, the Weinsteins of the world go to jail, and then there's an overcorrection to some degree, and it's still finding where it ultimately has to land,
100%,
where you can have the people who shouldn't be there and the other people. So it's tough because what he said, she said is a real tough thing to navigate when you weren't there. But for sure, a lot of times it's obvious.
Look at like, and I don't want to get into what side anybody falls on, but you look at something like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, and why that was so captivating to people. And I think it captivated a lot of people because there was such a quickness to sort of judge and punish him, and then it became apparent that there was a lot more to the story. And whichever way you fall on it.
The truth is probably somewhere in between. We probably don't know the actual truth.
Right. Well,
but I see the exact point you're making. Yeah.
Right. And the real truth is that people have good and bad qualities, all of us. Yep. And we're not all defined by our worst moments, or or a mistake, or being ignorant of something. I can bump into you, not realize that your shoulder just had surgery, and I'm wounding you, but you take it as I just knocked your shoulder. Like, I can harm you a lot more without even knowing that I've done it. And these are things that can happen. And there is more. There's a much wider gray in between. People, we're very quick to sort of define people, and sort of crucify people and put them up, like the Salem witch trials. It's like finding the new person to we have this sort of mob mentality of like, oh, if there's someone we can all hate together.
Yeah, like the lottery, essentially. Someone gets stoned because we like stoning people.
Exactly. So it's a part of our nature, unfortunately. And the real truth of the matter is that, like, people who have done bad things aren't all bad people, and people who
Yeah.
do great things aren't all good people. And we all sort of fall a lot more in a gray zone, and incidents themselves fall more in a gray zone, and that does not justify inexcusable, horrible, abusive behavior on any level. But
I also
there's
think
more to it.
we're in the like
Some of these things.
we're at a time now where I think where people are being taped so much. It's like we're at a time now where I feel like the true nature of human we're still learning, because there's so much more stuff now that's recorded, and we can now look at humanity from a step backwards. And I think we're seeing like this is a little different, but like there's a lot of people that they're still willing to reward bad behavior. Like they had the town hall debate with Trump in New Hampshire a few weeks ago, where even the governor of the state was like, I cannot believe how poorly people in the Republican governor of the state was like, how poorly people acted in the crowd. And we have people now that are willing to embrace bad behavior in public. And I don't know what that says about humanity yet, but I feel like it's something we're still like
I think it says a couple of things. I think you're right, 100%. And we are all, I think, number one, like you said, we're seeing so much more of everybody's lives, good and bad.
Yeah.
And so much of it is recorded forever now. It's not just like something that happened, and it's like literally every little mistake that anybody's ever made is like documented, whatever. Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah,
we're doing it right now.
Right. Exactly. But like a joke that somebody made.
There was
in
no
the
public record of we
90s.
worked on the Matrix before right now.
Right. Exactly. But like a joke, that was made at a time when
the James Gunn thing's a perfect example.
James Gunn is a perfect example.
He's the worst guy in the world. He's going to save this company. He's the worst guy in the world, and bring him
exactly.
in. You're like, well, which one is it, man?
Right. He 100%. He made jokes. That was one of the most insane things I'd ever seen.
The timing of it, I think, really contributed. It's like one of those things where it's like if that happened 6 months before, 6 months after, it might not have went the same way. It's
right. No, I know. I get it. And look, I'm really against all kind of the cancellation shit on both sides. I just think if people are going to be assholes, they're free to be assholes. The cancellation shouldn't come from the sort of like 20 people who want to find outrage over
the market should
every
decide,
little thing.
Essentially, it should be that people don't want to show
people
up.
Don't want to watch it, then don't watch the show.
Yeah.
Right.
And if enough people don't want to, essentially they're canceled. The same way any show that's not good is canceled.
Exactly right.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But people have a right to be an asshole as long as they're not actually physically harming or being abusive in a way that is or using their power to abuse people and things like that. Like
I said to my boss recently, I was like, there's tons of laws about being aggressive. There's no laws about being passive aggressive.
Right. Exactly. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, look, I think ultimately like people should have the right to say dumb things or be jerks. That's their right to do it, and we have a right not to listen to them or pay or purchase their things. And not everything has to be the sort of mandated, like, but whatever. At the same time, companies have a right to not want people acting like that representing them. So it is
the word cancel gets thrown around too much, as if it's somebody with a rubber stamp going, thou shall never work again. It's really a lot of it is business decisions, and it's
true. It's true. What I think what ultimately it is really just sort of this, like, it almost feels like there's this like mob that decides whether a person is acceptable or not suddenly, and they're small. It's like a small, loud portion of people who go, oh well, everyone says that person sucks right now, so can't listen to anything to that person. And
when that becomes 95% of that person's press coverage, then the perception of the problem is so much bigger than the actual. Then it's like you're reacting based on the perception and not on the actual, whatever 100%. They did,
Yeah.
So,
but I also think, like you're saying, I think there's also what does it say about our society? I think it also says that we become very desensitized to a lot of shit too. Like it's just like when the bar keeps moving and moving and moving about what like actually shocks us, or it's
I find that a lot because I don't watch a lot of movies. I looked up the other anymore. I am so much into other mediums. So like when I watch a movie, I don't watch it for the same reasons I used to. I was a big like Fellini fan. I still love like Kubrick and stuff like that. But now it's like, give me Money Plane, give me like these movies that are just fun and just people are taking big swings. I love stuff like that. So
Cool.
like when I do stumble upon, I'm scared to watch some of your horror movies. I'm gonna try to watch them. I feel like I'm gonna get like I almost when I saw the movie the RZA movie, The Man with the Iron Fist, I think that's what it's called.
Hmm.
Before that, they showed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre trailer where like this woman runs out of the house and she hides in a coffin, and then you hear Leatherface tiptoeing up and pull the chainsaw. I almost had to leave the theater. I had a fucking panic attack. I was like, so I feel like I'm not as desensitized as a lot of people. So when I dip my toe into something I'm not used to, like, I'm like, holy shit. Like my girlfriend's been watching Yellow Jackets and I'm like, this is where we're at now. Wild.
Yellow Jackets is pretty crazy. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy show. I'm watching that too. But yeah, that's first of all, that's a big admission from you. I thought you're a big tough guy. So
I'm not a big tough guy.
Oh,
you not see my painted nails?
No, I noticed. I think you have to be tough to wear those nails though. So
yeah.
Anyway, but listen, I personally don't. I mean, I wouldn't find my stuff scary. So but yeah, check it out. Like check out I don't know.
I'll watch whatever because like I'm gonna try to watch most of your stuff. Like I mentioned before, I got on the elliptical yesterday. I planned on, which is where I do a lot of my research for this podcast. I planned on watching 60 minutes of Altitude. Within 15 minutes, I was like, I'm making it all the way through. I was so in on that movie, and there's parts awesome. I would like to bring out, but I don't want to ruin people who might watch it. But I will just say that let me see, I haven't talked about it. The way that some of those people, a lot of the people were saved at one point in the end. I was so excited for it, but it did leave me wondering how many made it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. No, that's I'm so glad. Yeah, that was a really tough movie to shoot. That was also a very quick sort of shoot.
I imagine because it must have been all been shot. Most of it at least was shot on like one set, or like it's contained to a plane for better or for worse.
Well, what you don't, you may not realize is like, I mean, because you can see how much of that movie like. There's a lot of turbulence or like steep incline. We didn't have a gimbal for that set at all. Like that set
really
was flat on a studio. Yeah, flat on a studio ground.
You didn't have two guys shaking the wings on either side.
No, we couldn't do any of that. So we were, it was a lot of like, we would have the camera on like a slider, and like they'd be doing a camera move, and it'd be like we want to have a little turbulence. So I would literally be standing next to the camera guy, like tapping the thing, so it would just feel like natural sort of turbulence as it's moving. But like we would do stuff like where we had to like, wires to pull up open the overhead compartments and pull out bags. And we had our actress on a skateboard at one point, and we're like sliding her down the thing because it's on a steep incline. And dude, it was crazy. It was crazy. The stuff that we have to do to kind of like, to make it work. Because and we had to do it quickly, and we had to. Dude, that movie was a crazy shoot. That was a crazy shoot.
I loved your introduction to Dolph Lundgren. I love the way you shot that, and I loved just like he's got so much character in his face, and he's someone too who over the years people are like, oh, there's really something to him. Like he's got a lot of presence, a lot of gravitas, gets a lot of good roles now. Like, and I love just the way he looked and the way he moved in that. Oh man,
that's awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah, no, he was really fun to work with. He's a really smart guy. He really gets into the roles. He like does a lot of thinking about it. He wants to do a lot of conversations. I love that. I mean, I love actors who commit to that level and put that kind of thought into the work that they're doing. So, he was a pleasure to work with, and we had fun. I actually did a comedy with him too, and that one you should watch.
Yes,
he's actually really funny, and I mean, you have to be smart to be funny. You can't. So he's great. He's great to work with. I
love Denise Richards in the movie too. Like,
awesome.
She's someone who, obviously, like there's, she's been painted a certain way at some points in her career for personal life stuff, but she shows the fuck up. Like she
Hmm.
was like, I
Hmm.
bought her as that like FBI agent who didn't really know where her career was going. But she was in like even the way I remember just the way she was chewing on some snacks when she first met the Tom Holland dude. I'm sorry I don't know his
Yeah.
name, but I kept
Yeah.
being
It's
like,
funny that you
if you
say that, but
said that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
Tom Holland, you would have got
Yeah.
away with it.
100%. 100%. That was a
And
guy
the way
named
she was
Kurt.
just eating, I was just like, she's doing making some great choices here. And I
Yeah.
loved seeing her like kick Chuck Liddell's ass. And
Oh
great
yeah.
job with him too. You really got the
Thank you.
most out of him. Like
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. It was, yeah, like I said, it was an insane shoot, like insane. Very, very, uh, very difficult, very difficult. But I'm definitely proud of what we were able to pull off on it because it was, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of work, that one.
Were you involved in casting of that?
Yes, well, sort of. So that movie was originally going to have a completely different cast. And a much I would say like the kind of movie that would be a sort of a more serious cast, right? I don't mean that in any way against it. Just to me, it was a different movie when we were
Right.
making that one.
This
And
is an over the top action movie is
right,
sort of
well,
what
we
it
sort
is.
of leaned into that
Mhm.
as the casting sort of went in this direction. What happened with what I don't want to, I'm not going to name names, but we had some big actors attached to it, and it sort of became a scheduling issue with one of them, and then we were going to have to push, and
Common problem in
producers didn't want to
Hollywood.
push.
Which is why if you
Always, yeah,
hear a lot of movies that you think you're gonna get made or someone's attached to a movie and they're not, a lot of it is just stuff like that. Is that you can't, it's
totally,
timing.
totally. And so so yeah, so that was
Which is why we didn't get Magnum PI as Indiana Jones.
exactly. And
I don't know why that's
and
big, but
unfortunately, and it's an unfortunate thing because everybody wanted Tom
Tom
Selleck as
Selleck, yeah.
yeah, over Harrison
Harrison
Ford.
Ford. Well, the reason I asked
Yeah.
about the casting is because so obviously, this is, you spent a decent amount of chunk of change was spent on that, but it wasn't like a super, super high budget. So I was trying to think about the way the casting budget is. Do you the decision between spending that maybe on like one or two really big stars, or what you guys did is you gathered this real motley crew of people that all contributed perfectly. Like
Thank you.
like
Thank you.
Chuck Liddell was used perfectly in that film, and I
Thank you.
loved. I knew the face, but I didn't recognize that it was Jonathan Lipnicki from Jerry Maguire
Hmm.
was the
Yeah, yeah,
flight. I'm like, who is this flight attendant? He's
yeah.
wonderful,
He's a
and
good
it's
buddy,
like
man.
everybody who you cast, you got. It seems like you got the most out of them, and you used them
Thank you,
perfectly.
man.
And I
I
couldn't
appreciate
figure
it.
out who Greer Grammar. I knew her from Awkward, which is one of my favorite shows from back in the day on MTV. I'm like, where did I see so much of her? She was so good on that show, and I really
Yeah,
love that movie, man.
yeah. No, it was
Go watch
fun,
that
man. It
again.
was fun. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, man. I mean, that's something I take pride in sort of working with actors to really try to um I consider myself an actor's director. So it's important to me how the shots look. It's important to me all these things, but it's also equally important to me, not more so, that the actors feel safe um, to work in this environment, have ownership over their characters, that we're able to make pivots and things on the script to make it feel like more where they can bring as much of themselves or the characters that they're connecting with
Because they're not just
to the
reciting
screen.
lines.
And
Their job is to add something to it. Their job is
right,
to
no,
bring
100%,
something
and be
to it.
present in those places, and so
Make
for
choices.
me, exactly. And so I love the process of working with actors who really want to work, and that's really my biggest thing when I pick people to work with. It's people who are committed to doing the job and working. And I don't, it's like it's the same way that to me it's I would rather not have huge like enormous stars or names
And the baggage
who
that comes with them sometimes.
right. And look, it's great to work with the people who want, if they're a big star and they want to come to work, that's fabulous, right? um if they're sort of just wanting to show up, get a paycheck, sit in their trailer, they want to do what they I
Right.
can tell you that there have been a couple times where an actor, even on this film Altitude, I won't name names, where on day one I was getting that vibe, and I would pull them off set. Literally one actor in particular I pulled off set, and I said, look, well, so we did one take. I gave a note. This person sort of acted like, sort of passive aggressively did the note, right?
Yeah.
Like almost acting like they didn't know what I was trying to say.
Gave you nothing usable.
Right. And so, and I could see that like this is going to be a thing, like
if you're starting there, where are you going to end up, essentially?
Right. And they had a significant role. And they, by the way, I had a tremendous time working with this person, but this is what happened. So I could see very early on that, like, okay, this person is either testing me because they don't know what kind of movie this is going to be, like, because they can see this, maybe they're looking around thinking this is going to be garbage. I don't.
Where's the guy that's supposed to be shaking the wings of the plane?
Right. You know? Exactly. So I literally one take, and I said, hey, can I come talk to you? We went to the back of the plane where there were no extras in the back at that moment, or wherever we were, right? And I said, look, what kind of movie do you want to make? Do you want to, if you just want to show up here and you just want me to call cut after the first take, and this is what we want to do, then I'll just send everybody home early. I won't waste time trying to make a better movie. If you want to come here and work with me, and then then I feel like we can do something really cool. I will always protect you. I will work with you to, but like, either we work together and we try to do something here, or if you just want to give me what you want to give me, and then we take off. To this actor's credit, and a lot of actors who have names would have been very offended at that, or could have said to, or could have taken that very personally. This actor, I sort of felt like they were going to take the challenge, and they were going to hear me get a wake up call, and like, this actor went back, did the work, next day called me into their trailer and thanked me for having that conversation with them, and we had a tremendous time working, like absolutely tremendous time working together, and they gave everything. So I don't want to say who it was, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but exactly.
I've had it with other actors too. Yeah,
right. The stuff like that can be huge. That it's like, you can either take this moment and make it into a big problem, or take this moment and attempt to fix it. And I've seen a lot of people 100%. In my life who've gotten that moment and they made the exact wrong decision, and it became personal quickly, and it just doesn't work. It's like
100%.
You're appealing. This person is there because they wanted to be an actor and they worked hard as an actor. If you appeal to that thing inside that person, most likely they're going to step up to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that I feel like as a director, and that I've always sort of. There's a lot of psychology that goes into it, and I don't mean that as like manipulation. I mean that I talk to them a lot. I get an understanding of who they are, what they're going to come with, what they need to do their work, like what kind of environment they need, what kind of preparation they need, what they need from me to give them.
Different strokes for different folks too, because everybody's different.
Everyone's different, and every actor has a different process. And for me, it's about adapting to what every one of them needs to give them I'm not trying to have them come to my set and just do XYZ. I want to create an environment for them that feels creative, that feels safe. So I always and one of the big things I tell all the actors I work with is, I'm never going to lie to you. I don't lie. I will not lie to you. I won't tell you we got something we didn't get. Right. I won't tell you I think something's good when I don't think it's good. I won't bullshit you if I don't. And
you've always been like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because I think it's important. I think transparency on these sets is
don't waste someone's time.
Especially from your director. Well, yeah. Look, if I don't have an answer, I'm not going to bullshit an answer. Right. I'm going to tell you, you know what? I don't have an answer for that. Let's work it out together, and I'll collaborate with you, and we'll figure out why if there's something I just have in my head and I don't really know why, and you're seeing it a different way, let's talk it out. And let's come to the right conclusion on it. But there's no need to be, to me, having that sort of environment where they know that they can trust me, that they know that sitting behind the monitor, I'm actually looking out for them, and that I'm going to tell them what I see, and they know to me, that helps free them up, so they don't have to be thinking about, is this working? Is that like, right. They're free to just like let it go. And if I tell them something, once they start to trust me, then even if they don't see it right away, they might try something. But it's developing that trust. And if I might throw something out and say, oh, can you try this and that? And I go, oh, you know what? You're right. That doesn't work. Your instinct was way better than mine. That's not working. But
And it's like there's no three words that'll help win somebody over ever than "you are right." It's like, and it's like just admitting when someone else is right and giving them their flowers in that moment is huge for everybody in their day-to-day life. I talked my last episode with someone, we talked about the idea of kinder than you have to be is like people that are kinder than you have to be goes a real long way.
100%. And that's my sort of philosophy on every set that I am on. I can't say that I've always like, or I've never yelled or had a moment where I was angry or that somebody's feelings didn't get hurt. But I can tell you that I do make a concerted effort to show gratitude and appreciation for everybody on the set, no matter how big or small the job. I want people to be happy coming to the set. I want people to feel appreciated when they leave set. I don't ever want anyone to feel abused or mistreated in any way. I have like personally don't ever want to yell at anybody who doesn't have the ability to yell back at me.
Yes. I
That's
feel very
important to me.
uncomfortable yelling at people. It's been some of me. I can't do it.
These sets get very emotional and very high tension, and
a lot of hot lights, a lot of,
yeah, and you're like trying to move quickly and and sometimes people get angry or somebody's doing something or they need to be snapped out of something. Like sometimes what I'll do if there's like sluggishness going on, because I'm a really nice guy on set. I'm really nice. Like, and sometimes a crew can start to see that and they can maybe start to get a little more lax, or the crew's not moving as quickly, or everybody's having a little bit too much fun. People are drinking some of the beers in the fridge, or they're, whatever, like, or they're chatting a little bit too much, whatever. And that's fine. I mean, like, I want people to be fine, to have fun, but we do need to get the work done and we need to be moving. So if I start to get upset, or if there's talking going on, like too much talking going on while we're doing a take, and now I'm losing time because we have to do it again because people out there weren't shutting down the set. I'll start to get angry loudly, but not directed at anybody. And I'll be very clear that, like, guys, I really don't want to start to get upset. I'm trying to be really nice to everybody here. Please, guys, I'm asking you, like, and I'll start to get upset. I'll show that I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting upset and that there's going to be an escalation to it. But without ever directly like pointing at somebody and singling them out and making them feel
right.
You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like the teacher yelling at the entire class because one kid pissed all over the seat in the in the bathroom. But like letting everybody know, not okay, but not embarrassing anybody, specifically, like knowing, like, I know that was you.
Because even if like the one person did something wrong and you singled them out, every other person there is sort of then feeling fearful that it could be them next over something that could be minor.
It's just not an environment.
Swings the pendulum too far in the other direction.
It's just not, yeah, exactly. It's just not an environment I want to be on anyway. And I don't like, I really don't like somebody has to be really cancerous on a set for me to start like focusing on them and going, dude, this person is literally because I'm very tolerant and I'm very patient with a lot of stuff. So somebody has to be causing problems, ripple problems, or causing too much trouble in a way that's like making other people get kind of sort of drawn into it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, I really make an effort. I've never left the set without shaking every single person's hand on the set and thanking them, and greeting every person on the set when I come to work. Because on my first movie, On Across the Hall, I was so hyper focused on the work. I didn't do that the first like 2 days. And I remember a producer like mentioned something to me about how some of them first of all, I was scared. I was
first time you were lucky you weren't puking
on a big dude. I mean, I had moments.
I would have been Willie Beeman out there.
I mean, I'm on a Universal set, a huge crew, and my first movie, and I have so little time to do it.
Big actors.
Not everybody's being easy, right? And I had a nightmarish sort of some set of circumstances in some cases, like you wouldn't believe the first 2 days. And so I wasn't, I was kind of keeping to myself and focusing so much and like zipping around and just talking to only the people that, and somebody just sort of like opened my eyes to like, dude, you're not really. And I was stunned when he told me that, because I wasn't trying to be rude to anybody. I just was stunned when he said that. So it was actually the best thing that anybody ever said to me, because I actually, like day 3, I had a meeting with the entire crew. I let everybody know how much I appreciate them and apologized. And since that day, I've made such an effort to walk around every crew member, every cast member, every person who's there. I don't care if they're an extra, I don't care if they're a PA, like, and just like give them some time, talk to them, whatever they, and like, and try to let them know that I appreciate them, and encourage them, and do whatever I can to like just make a set that feels like you want to come to work and you don't really want to leave. Like you're creating a family. People want to be there. Everybody's contributing. Everybody's contributions are appreciated. And to me, that's just the kind of environment that fosters goodwill and creativity. And so it may not be, everything you want it to be. It may not be. It may not have the. But it's the best thing it could have possibly been under the circumstances that you had to create it. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm always trying to do.
What you're sort of talking around too is the concept of self-awareness, which comes up a bunch here too, that it's like, there's really, no matter what you're doing, if you can get to a point where you're self-aware, you're going to be 1,000 times better. Because a lot of these people that are assholes, like you mentioned, you trying to rub people the wrong way. You didn't know you were doing that. There's a lot of people who go through their entire lives doing stuff like that and not realizing how their actions. If you can get self-awareness, it makes a huge difference. And that also gives you the ability to treat different people different, like you said before, based on who they are. Is that if you're self-aware, you're more tuned to how other people act and what they may need in that moment, how their needs may change. And it's like, it's a huge tool. It'll help you no matter what you're doing.
100%. There's an interesting diagram, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a psychological, it's like a window pane, of like 4 different quadrants of like awareness. And it's like things that you know about yourself that nobody knows.
Yes.
Things you know about yourself that other people do know. Things other people know about you that you know, and things that other people know about you that you don't know. And it's like, and those are the things that kind of complete who you are.
That last one's a tough one to hear for a lot of people. It's
Yeah, for sure. Like when you don't know something about yourself and everybody thinks it, or everybody knows this about you, but you have no idea. That's not a place anybody really wants to be.
I've sometimes had these moments where like, I'm like, what if I did something like really gross in high school that I forgot, that I didn't even know anybody saw, and that's what everybody thinks of when they say my name? It's like, sometimes I'll wake up with those weird feelings.
I know.
It's like there's those people that's all they did, something messed up, and that's all they were known from. Like, what if that's me and no one's ever told me?
Well, that's like, that's sort of the fear in grade school, when you don't really know like social etiquette, and you don't know everything that's proper, and you start to like see people laughing at you for something that you didn't realize was dumb, or you say something that you didn't realize it sounds funny, and like you were learning those things. And that is one of the biggest fears. It's like, that's because those are the worst moments when you're in grade school. It's just like, it's like when you're a kid and you're learning, like, I just look like an idiot because I just said this and I didn't realize that was dumb, or that it sounded like this. Or one kid said, oh dude, that, it's just like, that stuff is, that's the stuff of nightmares for sure.
I got a bunch of, because I mean, I'm not to drop a bombshell on you, but I identify as non-binary these days. I don't know if I'm not like overly public about it, but like, it's something I felt my entire life. So there are all these moments in my childhood where I remember doing things that were probably outside of like my gender. And then hindsight, it makes so much more sense. But I remember being tremendously embarrassing back in the mid 80s. And you're just like, the long journey it took me to realize that who I was, that was that nice moment at the end. I'm like, oh, those moments were okay. And it's like, no one's thinking about
that. I'm really fascinated by that. And can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'm just curious, sincerely, like, what does that feel like? How do you feel that what does it feel like to not identify it? I think
it's interesting because it's something that I've come to in the past maybe several years, maybe like 5 years or so. But it feels like, like if I'm somebody who obviously, I'm not telling tales out of school that a lot of men act differently when you're only around other men. And it's like, you definitely hear men say things, especially, in the past, maybe more so than now when you're younger, but you hear things that like they wouldn't say around other women. I always felt to some degree like I was that woman in the room and maybe woman is too far, but I found myself in many situations standing up for other genders or orientations in rooms that might have been uncomfortable and being surprised that I was the only one.
Right.
And that
But
happened to me
so
a
can I ask
lot.
you a question? Can I
Yeah.
ask you a question? So, because I felt like I did that a lot too, but I guess I felt like in those instances, I didn't feel like I was personally offended. I felt offended for other people.
I
But so
felt
did you
personally
feel
offended.
personally offended? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's really interesting.
Because I know I react differently when something offends me personally than when something just offends me, like in the hypothetical or just in like the global like morality thing. I felt it
Hmm.
very personally. I've always felt, I guess the best way to put it is gay without being attracted to men is
Mm.
sort of something that I felt my entire, like I felt a strange
What does that
affinity.
mean? What I think that's fascinating. Like I think about like what does that feel like? What is
Now,
that?
this is
What
this
how do
I would say this is one of the first times I've ever really vocalized this because I don't, it's not
yeah,
something that comes up a lot, but like
yeah.
it feels like you know what it kind of feels like, and I hope this isn't the worst way to put it, but some people that are maybe half black and half white don't often feel accepted by either side.
Hmm.
That's what it sort of would feel like a lot for me, where it seemed like I felt like a lot, maybe this is internalizing, but I felt like, and I'm not really answering your question here, but I'll get to it, but like people would look at me sometimes like I was a spy for either side. So if I had a lot of female friends, people would look at it and go, well, he's trying to get with one of them, but it wasn't the case. Or if I had, or if I hung out with it felt like I never fully fit in an environment, because even if the moment if I felt comfortable with all those females, like there was always the someone being like, oh, but you're just there because of her. And I'm like, it's hard to explain, but it's like there's a level of comfort that I feel in
You felt
myself.
like you felt bonded with them in a different way. You felt like
Right.
a
In
part
a
of the
way that when
group,
I tried to explain to
but
my
you weren't
male
able to
peers, they
like
didn't
be a
get it.
part of it.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
And when
Yeah, yeah.
like I would try to talk about relationships with some of my male friends, our views on them were so completely different that it would feel like people of different genders talking. So I mean,
Interesting.
then that's sort of like, and it was like even
I
like
get it.
painting my nails. Like right now, I'm wearing Billie Eilish Jordans. I mean, it's my first
Hmm.
pair of. I had to get a size 14.5 women's shoes. I couldn't find it in men's. But it's like stuff like
Right.
that would feel weird. But like now, it's like I kind of feel weird when I'm not like that. So
That's cool, man. Dude, that's fucking awesome. And
it was a
I
big
appreciate
wait.
you. I appreciate you talking to me about it because it's such. I always want to accept everybody, but sometimes just overly accepting things, you can never really get to a full appreciation or understanding of what people are
Right.
going through because you're
Just
just
like
like,
rubber
okay,
stamping the yes, that's
right.
great.
I
Yeah.
don't want, yeah, like I don't want to offend or I don't want to say anything that sounds offensive in any way. I don't want to ask too much about it or ask the wrong question or, so, it's like, I have no problem with anybody doing anything that makes them happy or feels like who they are. I'm just very curious. I think I've never actually been so curious since until you really like mentioned it just
Yeah.
because I've known you for so long uh, about like what does it actually like feel like and mean
And feel free to
to
ask me
you.
other questions after too if you don't want to ask me.
Yeah,
But
no,
there
but
is
thank
one
you.
thing too. I'll tell you, this is why I get so upset about the way that people respond to trans and non. And just a clarification, I don't consider myself trans. I'm non-binary. I feel like
Hmm.
as whatever. But like, so when one of the big things that made a difference for me is when I started, I moved recently. I'm living out like by Northampton, which is a lot, I think probably a more accepting, probably further swinging left area. But like I started painting my nails and dressing a little differently in like, not like I'm not wearing like dresses, but I'm just like maybe dressing a little like, more stylish and more coordinated and stuff. And the people like that used to like randomly come up to me and see me wearing like a Red Sox hat and say all this crazy stuff about sports and then said almost always say something in some way that offends me, they've stopped talking to me. And all the people that like I'll see if I go into a coffee place and there's someone who's a little maybe more like me that probably wouldn't have talked to me before and I was just dressed in my Brooks Brothers whatever going to work, they're more friendly to me. So even when I go in the world now, I'm attracting more of the attention from the people that I want to, that
That
feel
makes sense.
kinship to, than
Right.
less to the people that just feel like, hey,
That's awesome.
just let's drink 6 beers and like,
That's
it's,
awesome.
and so that's why when you want people to hide who they are, it's so absurd because you're robbing people of ever feeling comfortable. I feel comfortable who I
I
am
just don't get
every
the
day.
point. I also don't get the point of like, why can't you just be secure in who you are to not feel like anybody else being who they are is a threat to who you are as a person or your identity or your own sort of like people have this idea of like this infiltration, like it's a disease is spreading, but it's not a disease that's spreading. It's people becoming more comfortable admitting who they
Right.
are.
That's
And
exactly what it
and
is.
and and not feeling like they have to hide themselves and be miserable and do things, that
Well, the
I've
big
never.
problem is religion, I think, because the problem with a lot of, I was raised Catholic, I'm not anymore, but like the problem is once you start pulling on that thread where you start doubting even one or two things you're being told, you're risking everything crashing down. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to pull on that thread.
Yeah, well, it is religion, because it's also there are so many people who are denying who they are, who are parts of those religions, right?
Right.
Who are literally, and it creates this like if you have some kind of fear that you could possibly become something that you don't like, that you could be,
that you would be ashamed of, or that your
right,
community
yeah, exactly,
would cast you aside.
I have very bad news for you.
Yeah.
You're very likely denying who you actually are.
Yep.
Because I've never had a fear that I'm going to become something I'm not already comfortable being. Right. I never had a fear that being like being good friends with with gay people or it just like that's going to somehow convert me into feeling like I've had great friends, and you just think like what like it's always, to me, sounded so strange that people are like, these people who so identify as masculine are so afraid of losing their masculinity, and they are definitely wearing it like a shield, because it's a very shallow sort of like front, and I've never felt the need to indulge in that shit, but I find it really interesting that to me it's like the people who protest too much.
Yeah, there's something there. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Because what are you so afraid? Like, what are you scared of, dude? Like, what are you scared of? I'm not afraid when I'm hanging out with my dog that I'm gonna suddenly start eating dog food and running around. I don't have this fear that I can't. Like, my dog is my best friend. I don't still walk around worrying I'm gonna start humping legs and shit.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just
well, the other thing too is like I wrote this line in the song a few years ago. I've been patting myself in the back ever since, but it's something like you can't lie to yourself and be honest with somebody else. And it's like, so it was real. My relationships.
That's really cool. That's a very cool line.
My relationships are a lot better now because I wasn't intentionally lying to myself. I didn't have all the information I need to fill out the picture of how I felt. But like, I was in like an 11-year relationship. We were engaged. We never got married. That ended about 5 years ago. We're still super close. It was all good. But like when I got out of there, I kind of felt like permission to have my life back again. Because it was like I had my life on the other side, but I didn't know what to do with it.
Awesome.
And then on the other side, I had it back, but now I could appreciate it. And that's where I started doing the music again and getting back into it and stuff like that.
Dude, that's amazing, and that's awesome. And by the way, before I get canceled, I have to say that I'm not equating anybody to a dog, by the way.
So no, I didn't.
No, first of all, let me just also say I put my dog above any human that I know anyway.
Same with my cats.
To start. So, but I'm certainly not. I'm not equating anything to being a dog. I just you know how everyone is offended by something.
I remember this David Cross joke he told on stand up that I love. He's like I think women are smarter than men, and everybody goes nuts. And he goes, but I think dogs are smarter than women. And the crowd just got like silent. And he's like, I have to admit that was a joke. I'm gonna tell a lot of them here tonight.
I love that.
There's a man who got canceled and kept on marching and nothing bad happened. It's sort of what I hate to say this, but I kind of wish what Al Franken did.
Oh, I don't hate to say that. I wish you had done that.
We could really use Al Franken right now.
100%. He was fabulous, and yeah, I totally agree.
I loved watching him, just clips of like on CNN just busting someone's balls in Congress,
taking people down. Yeah,
like Stuart Smiley, my ass, motherfucker.
I know he was awesome. He was awesome.
Yeah, not to condone whatever he did, but
but I totally agree with you. I mean, it's sort of like the Bill Burr sort of thing, where it's just like don't listen to the noise and just do your thing. And
what our former president has mastered, and it's like it's something that people on the other side are not as comfortable doing.
100%. Like, he doesn't apologize for anything. Yeah, shamelessly not apologizing and not acknowledging any wrongdoing and just moving forward. But look, it's good to take accountability for things, but you can't apologize to everybody all the time for everything. That's really ultimately the thing. You can't. Everyone is. If you try to make everybody happy all the time, you're gonna end up making nobody happy any of the time.
Especially yourself. Exactly.
exactly.
So let's talk a little bit what you're working on now. I mean, I know you got something in the background. I don't want to, it's, as with anybody working on a project, you don't want to share more than you can. Sometimes you're contractually not obligated to, but I know you got a lot of irons in the fire. You
I
did
do.
mention to me that you had sent me a text with some people that you're working with, and it was like one name jumped out, and that was Kelsey Grammar, because I am like, I told you before, I've had Frasier reboot as a Google alert for a long time. A lot of Frasier connections. James Oliver was in Across the Hall. He's done a bunch of episodes of Frasier. You worked with Greer Grammar. Tell me a little bit what's going on with Kelsey, because I love this dude and I could watch him in anything.
I mean, he's an extremely, extremely talented actor, as you already know. He's
Gravitas beyond just gravitas.
and shockingly, more there isn't any like ego, and he comes to work and he's committed to the work, and there's none of the diva stuff. There's no, he's tremendous. He's a tremendous actor.
Even when I remember I watched some Frasier, even when he had some personal problems, he still showed up and did his job on Frasier and did it extremely well. That takes a lot. It takes a lot to pull yourself together on a bad day to really do something that's going to last and be funny for 20 years. And the dude's a pro.
100%. So that's
his memoir is amazing. He reads the audiobook. I listened to it. I laughed. I cried.
I mean, his voice is amazing.
Yeah.
You could exactly. Yeah, I could listen to him read anything. You could read the ingredients on the cereal box. I'll listen to that too. So that sounds great. Yeah. So he's tremendous. I think he's awesome in the film. That's a movie that is still currently in production. I don't think I can say the title of it yet.
That's fine. Yeah, leave it out.
But it's a really fun film. It's got a great cast, like a tremendous cast. This film behind me, I also don't know if I can say. This is for Sony, and is currently in the final stages of post-production, and
which is happening literally right now.
Happening right now.
Happened right before you started, and probably after.
100%. Like we're just delivered the first reel, trying to get the second reel in by tonight or tomorrow. It's been a really I don't know who, if I can mention names in it. If it
helps, this won't be out for 2 months. But even it's like, Google it. If you're watching this and you want to know who's in it, just Google it. There's a good chance a trailer might even be out, depending on when you're watching this. This will live forever.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's got a very good cast. It's got a very good cast. It's got some war in it, and it's got some fighting in it, like street fighting, like MMA kind of street fighting.
So what is it? That's actually something I wanted to ask you about. Now, obviously, when we were shooting films back in the day, we weren't doing action scenes. What was it like learning how to be an action director? Because there was a lot of great action in Altitude. Obviously, there's stuff going on in the background there. Like, how do you learn? Because that's something obviously Chris Williams didn't teach us back at BU.
Right.
How do you learn that on the fly?
I think it's hard. I think the thing that prepared me most for it was working in TV, which that was something I had to really learn on the fly, because it's something I'd never really. I did several seasons of a show with HBO. We were filming in Romania, and what I learned was, like, because when I was just going into that, I'd only done film, and I thought very much in like sequence of shots, and not in coverage, not in like how to sort of block, adjust, and cover a scene. When it comes to, like, I would literally be like, so from this part of the script, this part of the script is this shot, and it's like, it's going to look like this, and then I go to this shot, and it's going to look like this, and that's for me. Like, and I would just have every shot and edit in my head. Can't do that in television. You don't have the luxury of like perfecting all these little pieces, right?
Yep.
And secondly, you just don't have the time to do that. So what you end up doing is you to put a scene on its back, you bring your actors in to your set, everybody who's in the scene, clear everybody out, have them kind of run through the scene, and we kind of very lightly kind of throw our idea of where this should be staged. And then as I'm watching it, I start to make adjustments to it. I'll watch them go through it, and then I'll go, okay, this is pretty good. Why don't we just have you over here? So at the very end, I can, or, you know, how does this feel? Or let's kind of come over here so we're not up against this wall or doing this stuff, whatever these things, right? You kind of just figure out where you want to be so that you can start to figure out where, like, you know, and then start to put the shots together in my head. I'll bring now this depends on sort of the timing. So sometimes I'll run through that stuff with the cinematographer in the room with me, so that he can kind of be giving me, like, you know what, if we could just turn this way a little bit, we can be looking down this way, it'll look nicer, or whatever it is, right? Or we can get a shot through here, but only for like setup this way, you know, that kind of stuff. And then you know, and then you bring your whole like crew in, you show them, now you've kind of perfected exactly where it's going to be. You set your marks, set the lighting, you know, you send everybody through the works, and you set your lighting, all that stuff. Same kind of thing with action. Basically you have a general idea of where you want this scene to be taking place, and some of the big pieces that need to happen, working with a stunt coordinator and a fight choreographer, who basically, like, you kind of talk them through what needs to happen and what kind of beats need to happen, and they're working with, they bring in their stunt guys. You're not blocking with the actors yet. Depending on who is going to be performing these action scenes, you typically want to have the actors have the ability to weigh in if they want to, about what they're able to do, what they're going to feel comfortable doing, what, like,
what insurance will allow them to do. I'm sure some is a factor.
Sure, yeah. Or I mean, look, you can always cover things with stunt doubles and things like that. The idea is really that, like, you want them, this is their character, right? You don't want to suddenly go, hey, so then you're doing this, and they're like,
right.
I wouldn't be.
You can't just be somebody who's like knitting there as an old lady, then just be doing backflips and then go back.
Right, exactly. So they need to sort of be able to weigh in on their own sort of input into how that could feel like their character. You don't, like, the worst thing is having like somebody who, like, you know, is only going to throw a couple, like, who feels like he's just like but suddenly he's like a martial artist, but he's clearly never studied martial arts, and it's not like, that's not his thing, right? He's doing like these flying back kicks, and that's not, like, you know, so yeah, so you bring in them, they start to work it out in front of you, and then you basically like run through it. You look at it in the space, make any kind of adjustments there, and then you basically, I like to cover stuff as much with the stunt guys first to kind of see the whole thing through, and then pick up the pieces that we're going to be doing with our actors. And again, sometimes the actors want to do everything, sometimes they want to do almost nothing, and they just want to be, like, you know, in these little pieces. It really comes down to who you're working with on those projects, what just the nature of the action is, or like what it calls for. And for me, it's really about just sort of making sure that it's as important to carrying the story forward and feels as much a part of the actual film's identity and tone and rhythm as anything else. So as any dialogue, or as any, you know, any story pieces, you know. So I think that's, for me, how I try to approach that stuff. But yeah, it's definitely something, what you start to learn is just that, like, you're going to need lots of pieces, and sometimes it's very stop and go, and sometimes it's very, very difficult to just, like, go, how am I going to get that one little piece there, or just to do something very small that you're going to need, or to think of all these little pieces you're going to need. But you know, try to get all the big stuff in wides and do all that stuff, and then just really try to pop off as many little, like, things and overdo it. Like, you're never going to wish you had less footage, you know.
Right.
I can tell you there are plenty of times where I'm in the editing room working, and I'm like, oh my god,
why didn't I just do one more of those, or
right, or why, or how do we not, like, why did I cut before this part happened, when,
right,
like, I could have just had, I was like, I'm looking for the shot because I see we're set up for this perfect angle for what I need, you know, and like, call cut because I didn't think I was going to need it. I didn't think we needed anything after this one little piece that we did, you know, that kind of stuff. So you try to pick up as many pieces as you can in the setups that you're doing, and run through as many setups and as much of that stuff as you can.
It is, it's even I was shooting something. We had the last snow day of the year. I took an opportunity to shoot something that I really wanted for my film, And I was like, afterwards, I'm like, I'm not gonna have another shot to shoot that for another year, and everything's gonna look different because that more stuff is grown in and things like that. It's really hard to go back and get that shot and have it look seamless. It's not
Right,
easy.
right.
And
Yeah,
it's
and
expensive.
I've had to do stuff like that too. Like I've had to do movies where like literally we're picking up little pieces. Like we've shot the whole movie on sets, right? And
Yeah.
then we're going over to my house like weeks later, like doing these pieces, trying to match lighting, trying to match these little things that like this little thing here kind of looks like that could be the background, and or we
Yeah.
create these things that we have these ideas. So basically, just doing all these sort of inserts and pieces that that's always
Yeah.
amazing when you see it and you're like, oh my god, that was my house.
Right.
Not
Or it's like those two people never met each other, yet they're in all these scenes together.
Oh yeah,
You
I've
know?
done stuff like that too. I've had fight scenes where the guys run in the same room at the same time.
Wow.
So that it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
We're
fun.
already going kind of long here, but I do want to ask you anything about the writer's strike that's going on now that you feel we need to talk about. I mean, I obviously support the writers. They deserve to get paid. We're in a weird time, but
I think I don't know there's anything I can really add to it. I think, you know, it's a difficult period for people to to I feel for people who who lose work and who are trying, but of course I don't know that I have a lot to add to it that
and then
isn't
said,
already been said, and
yep.
I don't want to
Yeah.
and hopefully by the time this comes out there won't
Hopefully
be
it'll be resolved. Yeah.
exactly.
It's
So,
I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's tough where it's like on the one hand they don't have enough to pay the writers, and on the other hand they're boasting highest profits ever. Which so I don't know. I'm much more knowledgeable about that in the music industry, where you talk about stuff like streaming, where it's like can't afford to give us everything, where you're telling them how much money you're making. It's like
right,
eventually we have to come
right,
to some sort of consensus about what the truth is.
right, right.
But
It's a hard, it's definitely a hard thing because um I don't want to both sides it, but I see things. I see all the sides, and I see things that I think
like so much
you know
has changed in a small period of time. It's tough for us to really come to that. It takes time to come to the consensus of what really is fair and what's going to work for the long run, because
100%.
obviously
And
something could blow it
there's a
up in
lot of
5
views.
more
There are
years.
people who literally make so much money on some of these projects who do so little of that but at the same time then you start to go, and well, there's financial. What about all the times that those people are putting their necks on the line to stand behind something? They're putting up money on things that can get lost, while those people getting paid regardless of the losses that can or the risks that. But again, this is not me against. I would probably hopefully it's just a
confusing times.
it's one of those, like we talked about. There's just more gray than there is black and white.
Especially at a time now where I mentioned I'm making a movie, there's no studio involved. It's easier than ever to do something on your own, which also throws everything into a big whack. It does, yeah.
And
that's going to happen more and more. I mean, I downloaded this app, like the AI video app I downloaded last night, that just turns me into claymation in 2 minutes. And it's nuts. It's like I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm excited to find out.
So. It's interesting, man. It's interesting time.
So
yeah, man.
Cool, man. Anything else you want to touch on while we're here? Or feel like we covered a lot of ground, man.
I think so too.
Yeah, I will. There's one story that always makes me laugh, and I'll cut this out if you want me there. But this is one of the things that you really got me once, where you invited me down to New York. You said, I got an improv thing for you. It's related to you got to be like a VJ, and that's all I knew. And do you remember what it was? Because I found the video of this recently.
What is it?
It was, I believe, a 6th or 7th grade graduation party at the Copacabana.
Yes, I remember. Oh
and
my god,
it was me and this other woman who I think was either British or pretending to be British, and we were like hosting it, and like we didn't know what to do, so we were the idea we come up with is that we'll be intentionally bad because all we can do is be bad, and we couldn't get. We were shooting on the inside. It was way too dark and loud, and the kids were at the perfect age where they felt so uncomfortable. If they were 2 years younger, it would have been easier. If they're 2 years older, it would have been easier. But they were 100%. So uncomfortable. They were
like just getting cool, but not old enough to like be. It was a weird. Yeah,
I
but no,
call
it's fun. It
myself
was fun,
DJ
dude. You did
Timid.
great. I thought you did a great job on that. And
And
that
at the
was,
end of the day,
yeah,
some woman I
they
never
loved it.
saw before, who I believe was drinking, gave me several $100s in my hands. So it was all worth
She
it.
loved it. She loved what you did, and they all loved the video. Yeah, no, you were like, we were like kind of making fun of the MTV like VJ people, and
Yeah.
that sort of like everybody was such an asshole, with the crazy, hair and their glasses and it was that like early 2000s sort of just MTV vibe of,
Yeah, it was hilarious.
yeah.
Watching the video again the other day was hilarious. And I
Oh
just
my
say, you
God.
got me paid. I appreciate that. Couple $100 meant a lot to me back then.
I'm happy to hear it. I'm
But
happy
it
to
just
hear it.
makes me laugh, especially because of the Copacabana. That always makes me
Yes, that
just
was
a random
hilarious.
place,
That was a crazy,
Because wasn't that
crazy.
didn't they shoot part of Goodfellas there, or wasn't there
Hmm.
at least? Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I always think of.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
Cool,
Well, what
man.
happened was I had made like a sort of a funny piece that was for my high school, that was played at the high school, and she had seen it and like loved it and begged me to do something like that for her daughter's thing, and so I was like, yeah, cool.
Which is funny because it's like that's how I forget the guy's name right now, but the guy who played young Han Solo, he got discovered because he made a movie that Steven Spielberg, for like a bar mitzvah film that Steven Spielberg saw because it was like at his
Crazy,
kid's bar
right?
mitzvah, and it's like,
It's so crazy.
now we got young
You
Han
never know.
Solo.
Exactly.
So, all right, man. Well, I could talk to you forever. But we're already
Likewise.
going long. But we're gonna
Well,
cut
maybe
this
we'll
off
do it
now.
again sometime.
Yeah, definitely, man. So it's been a pleasure. Go Google Alex Merkin. Depending when you see this, there'll be movies out there to watch. Enjoy it. They're great. He's got a great acting, great directing style, man. I can't wait to watch some more. I'm gonna watch Percentage sometime this week. I'm very pumped. So
awesome, my man. Awesome. Well, thank you,
man.
brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. It's been awesome talking to you. Love what you're doing, man. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for all your work and all your art. I think
Appreciate
tremendous,
it, man.
man. So
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. Peace.